Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the fascinating, highly structured world that's operating inside you right this very second. You know, we usually think of our biology in terms of these big, macroscopic organs, right? The heart beating, lungs breathing. But to truly grasp how life actually works, we've got to zoom way, way in.
Think about this. What if your body wasn't just tissue, but literally trillions of tiny factories? It's kind of a mind-bending question to start off with, I know, but it completely changes how we understand biology. Because when you reframe your perspective and view yourself as this massive collection of bustling microscopic workspaces, suddenly the sheer complexity of life just starts to make an incredible amount of sense.
And that brings us to a core concept here. A cell is like a tiny living factory, with each of its parts doing a specific job. In biology, eukaryotic cells are essentially the ultimate factories. They've got these independent parts, organelles, working together simultaneously just to keep you alive and kicking.
Section 1. The Tiny Living Factory. Let's go ahead and step right through those microscopic front doors and take a look at the factory floor. So the workers on this floor are our eukaryotic cell organelles, and they have very distinct jobs. Think of it like this. They're carrying out various life processes independently, all at the exact same time. Some organelles are on the assembly line, building new materials. Others act as the sanitation crew, actively removing waste. And then you've got the power plants, providing energy to the cell. The absolute key takeaway here is that these distinct organelles manage to do all these processes independently, yet they work together in perfect harmony to keep the whole operation running smoothly.
Moving on to Section 2. Inside the control room, let's step away from the noise of the factory floor and head straight into the CEO's office, the absolute most crucial part of this entire operation. Now, what's truly fascinating is the incredible structural detail of the nucleus. It's a highly complex structure that serves as the ultimate house of coded instructions. Literally everything the factory does is dictated by what happens right here inside this spherical control center.
But of course, a control room this critical needs some seriously heavy security. The nucleus is wrapped in a double-layered nuclear membrane, and it's completely outfitted with pores. Think of these nuclear pores as high-tech security doors. They strictly regulate exactly what comes in and out, selectively allowing the transfer of material between the super-secure nucleus and the bustling cytoplasm just outside.
Deep inside that nucleus, we find a dense, round body called the nucleolus. Think of it as a specialized subassembly line. First, it synthesizes these ribosomal subunits. Next, those subunits exit the nucleus straight through those high-tech security doors we just talked about, the nuclear pores. And finally, one large and one small subunit assemble out in the cytoplasm to form a fully functioning ribosome. It's a perfectly synchronized manufacturing process, building the very machinery that'll eventually do the heavy lifting out on the main floor.
Section 3. The Code of Life. So, we know how the control room is built, and we know how it exports machinery. But what exactly is it protecting inside those highly secure filing cabinets? Let's take a look at the blueprints. Right in the heart of the nucleus lies the DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. This molecule is the holy grail. It contains all the crucial information for the inheritance of characters from parents to the next generation. And the functional segments of this DNA, we call those genes. But the really wild part here is that this DNA isn't just some dusty static instruction manual sitting on a shelf. It physically changes its shape depending on what the factory is doing at any given microsecond.
Check this out. When the cell isn't dividing, like when it's just doing its normal Tuesday routine, the DNA exists as chromatin. It's basically this entangled, messy mass of thread-like structures. But the moment the cell's about to divide, that tangled mass neatly organizes itself into highly structured, rod-shaped chromosomes made of DNA and specific proteins. It's literally like taking a completely messy room and packing everything perfectly into neat little moving boxes right before you relocate.
If we zoom in from the macro cell level, this packaging just becomes so beautifully clear. We go from the whole cell straight into the nucleus, down into that entangled chromatin, which organizes into a distinct chromosome. And if you pull a single thread from that, you get the iconic DNA double helix. I mean, it is an absolute masterpiece of biological packaging.
Which brings us to Section 4, Life Without a Nucleus. Okay. So we've established how incredibly vital the nucleus is, right? It holds the DNA, it builds the ribosomes, it runs the whole show. But what's really fascinating is what happens when a cell completely breaks these rules.
Seriously, what happens when a cell factory just straight up fires its management and permanently removes the control room? Sounds like a total recipe for disaster, doesn't it? Well, to answer that, we have to look at some highly specialized cells that actually ditch their nucleus on purpose, just to perform a very specific life-saving function for you.
And here is the ultimate biological sacrifice: mature red blood cells. They are anucleate, meaning they completely lack a nucleus. Why on earth would they do that? Well, because losing the nucleus provides a ton of extra physical space inside the cell for hemoglobin. This allows the cell to transport a significantly larger amount of oxygen to your entire body. They essentially hollow themselves out, sacrificing their own control room, just to become these ultimate oxygen delivery vehicles.
But as you might guess, that sacrifice comes with a pretty heavy price. Because they don't have a nucleus, mature red blood cells cannot repair or divide themselves. Without the coded instructions of DNA, these cells have permanently given up their ability to fix broken machinery or build new factories. When they get damaged, that's it. They have absolutely no blueprints to refer back to for repairs.
And that reality brings us to this very specific number right here, 120. As a direct result of tossing out their nucleus, the lifespan of a red blood cell is incredibly short. They survive for only about 120 days before they just wear out and are cleared from your system. They burn fast and bright, all to keep you oxygenated. Let's move to our final comparison. Prokaryotic cells are another totally fascinating exception because they do not have a well-defined nucleus at all. If eukaryotic cells are these highly secure factories with a walled-off CEO office, prokaryotes operate way more like a modern, open-plan workspace.
This breakdown really summarizes our structural journey perfectly. While eukaryotes have that highly secure double-membrane nucleus containing linear DNA, prokaryotes just keep their single circular DNA out in an undefined open region called the nucleoid. It's a really stark contrast between a highly secure system and a vastly simplified, exposed one.
And that brings us to the end of our journey through the microscopic workspace. We've seen how meticulously structured the cell usually is, with its dedicated organelle workers and that highly secure nuclear control room. But then we look at the mature red blood cell. They literally sacrifice their core for the greater good of the body. So what other cellular rules are meant to be broken? It definitely leaves you wondering exactly how many other microscopic rule breakers are actively bending the laws of biology just to keep you alive right now. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope you never look at your own biology the same way again.